works perfectly well, because the more foods you eat that are rich in nutrients, the less you're going to desire to overeat, the less you're going to crave and develop those addictive sensations. When you eat less food, less calories in general, it delays the onset of diseases. It stops the atherosclerotic process. You don't develop atherosclerosis in your blood vessels. That results from overeating. The excess calories you consume that your body didn't need feeds diseases. We need a certain amount of calories and a certain amount of nutrients. But on an ancient Egyptian pyramid was the statement, man lives on 2/3 of what he eats. On the other 1/3 feeds his doctor. You see, there are receptors and nutrient receptors in our stomach and our digestive tract that can sense the nutrient density of everything we eat. When we take in lots of fiber and lots of nutrients, the brain gets a sense, gets feedback to tell your brain, your hypothalamus, that you've had enough food. When you put a lot of empty calories in your stomach, there's no feedback loop to the brain, and you're driven to overeat, and you feel hungry all the time. The key to not overeating and to feeling satiated, and so you don't feel like eating unnecessary food that you didn't need, is to fill up on nutrient-rich food. This program is all about eating more food than you're eating right now. Very few people in this room are eating enough of those foods that will give you the nutrients to arm your body against disease. We have to eat more green vegetables, more beans, more eggplants and mushrooms and tomatoes and peppers, and in other words, and cauliflower, and all these high nutrient foods we have to consume more of. And that will essentially arm your body with all these very powerful phytochemicals and make your body and give your body a protective armor to protect you against cancer and toxins in our environment. There are poisonous substances and toxic material in natural foods too, and they were there 50,000 years ago. That's okay. Your body has the ability to repair cells, to repair DNA damage. Your body is a self-healing, self-repairing machine. Even a normal cell, when it starts to get damaged and become dysplastic, or get the early stages of cancer, when you have breaks in your DNA, your body has the mechanism to repair those broken links and put the cell back to a normal state again if you give it high levels of these phytochemical nutrients that are present in the colorful fruits and vegetables. A high phytochemical diet prevents cancer, and in certain cases can reverse dysplasia and even reverse cancer. You can't get high levels of these cancer-fighting nutrients from vitamin pills. You have to get them from eating lots of the right kind of food. Most of them haven't been discovered yet, but when you look at some carotenoids that are very crucial, very powerful anti-cancer effects, we find that green vegetables have between 20 and 25,000 micrograms of these nutrients, and that's just one of the nutrients. Can you imagine if all of America ate 2 to 3 cups of green vegetables a day? We'd see the cancer rate drop in half in a period of a few years. Green vegetables are so powerfully rich in nutrients that when we compare them to animal products, they contain 300 times as much of even the nutrients that are in animal products. But of course, animal products don't contain the nutrients that are in green vegetables. And look at the protein content in the first line. You notice it says protein in broccoli is about 12 grams and in sirloin steaks about 5 grams. I ask people all the time, what do you think has more protein, 100 calories of broccoli or 100 calories of steak? And even doctors and dietitians and scientists will say to me, oh, I didn't even know broccoli had protein. And I say to them, well, how do you think the cow got the protein to put in to make its muscle tissue? Did you think it just breathed it in from the air? Don't you realize that most animals ate greens to get the protein? You didn't think the cow shoved its hoof into the soil and sprouted roots directly and sucked up the nitrogen right through the soil, did you? But keep in mind, here's an important point here, is that calories only come from 3 things: fat, carbohydrate, and protein. There's only 3 sources of calories. So if you didn't think broccoli was mostly protein, then you must have thought it was carbohydrate, like a potato. Or did you think it was fat, like an olive or avocado mostly? In other words, Since there are only 3 sources of macronutrients, all foods are some mix of those 3 nutrients: fat, carbohydrate, and protein. Broccoli is about 60% protein. Meat, sirloin steaks, about 24% of calories from protein. It's about 70% of calories from fat. So steak is mostly fat and broccoli is mostly protein. That's how come all animals on the face of the earth, from the lion or the tiger to the Tyrannosaurus rex, got their protein from green vegetables. They either had to eat the greens directly or they had to eat an animal who ate the greens. But all the protein on the planet came from the action of sunlight and soil up through plants, making proteinaceous and nitrogenous compounds for animals to eat. You understand that concept? So green grass made the lion, indirectly through the antelope or the zebra. Now Americans are eating too much protein, they're eating too much fat, and they're eating too many carbohydrates. We have to eat less calories, we have to eat less of all 3. Don't get fooled by this nonsense that protein is some nutrient to be held in high esteem and start taking protein powders and protein drinks and and low carbohydrate this and high protein that. That's just fraudulent information. Your body is getting, most Americans are already protein poisoned by all the animal products they're eating. But they're poisoned by excess calories. We're getting too much protein, too much fat, and too many carbohydrates. And the only way to eat less of all 3 and have a leaner, disease-proof body is to eat a diet that's vegetable-based, not meat-based, and not grain-based. We don't want our diet to be based on flour or white rice or pasta. And we don't want our diet to be based on meat and fish and cheese or eggs, which don't have phytochemicals and antioxidants in them either, and are rich in saturated fat and contaminants. So do you know what food has the best association with longevity in humans? Greens. Right. If you're going to win an award, $1 million prize for going into a supermarket, we have a game show, and whoever puts 10,000 calories of most nutrients in their shopping cart is going to win the $1 million. What would you shove into your shopping cart to win the money? All the green, kale, broccoli, right, Swiss chard, bok choy, peas, all the greens you could find. This is one of my patients 6 months after following the diet. But as I said earlier, we're only 1.8% different from a gorilla and about 1.6% different from a chimpanzee. We have the same digestive tract structure, the same size of a liver, the same secretion of enzymes from the pancreas. We really share a similarity of need for nutrients, and all primates eat a diet predominantly of green vegetables. We have a huge requirement for nutrients, and we have a variety driver. Primates are not satisfied. A shark can eat fish all day, he'll be happy. A lion can just chew meat up all day, he doesn't need a lot of variety. But the animals that live the longest, with the bigger brains, with the longest potential for lifespan, eat a variety of food, and we're finding in the scientific investigations that are linked to the humans that live the longest are those humans who ate a broad assortment of natural foods and got the highest concentration and diversity of nutrients, which gorillas and chimpanzees innately go after variety. They don't sit in front of a banana tree and eat bananas all day. They'll eat a few bananas and they'll go 1.5 miles away to eat a different food. You have that same variety driver in you. We have to eat a diversity of plant foods to maximize human lifespan. Instead of that, though, Americans don't eat much variety. They live predominantly on animal products and pasta and bread and potato and oil. Excuse me, I left out oil. Oil is usually 1/3 of the or more of the American diet. I mean, a lot of Americans eat a small salad, but they might put, salad is raw leaves are very low in calories. A pound of raw greens is like 60 calories a pound. Throw a head of iceberg lettuce. Take a quarter of that head, the size salad most Americans eat. It's only about 10 to 12 calories. They throw a little slice of tomato on top, or maybe a few pieces of cucumbers. They only have 15, 20 calories in a bowl. There's not much calories there. But then they throw on 3 to 4 tablespoons of dressing at 120 calories per tablespoon, mostly made from oil, because they've been told it's health food. They'll throw 500 calories of dressing on a little 20-calorie salad. I'll tell them, forget the salad then. Just drink the dressing straight from the bottle. But Americans are consuming 400 to 800 calories a day just from oil. Oil is not high-nutrient food. Remember I told you a few minutes ago, the less empty calories we consume, the longer we live. And the more nutrient-rich calories we consume, the longer we live. When we're putting oil all over our food, you're pouring calories without nutrient density. Once you extract the oil from the food that nature made, you've removed and lost most of the nutrients. And the protective flavonoids which prevent the oil from becoming rancid are lost as well. I don't recommend people eat a particularly low-fat diet, but you want the fats you consume to be nutrient-rich. Nuts and seeds are extremely nutrient-rich food, but not the oil when we extract it from the nut or seed. I make some phenomenal salad dressings. Instead of pouring oil on the food directly, I'll take maybe one of my most favorite dressings. I take a peeled orange, I'll mix it with a handful of raw cashew nuts, a sprig of blood orange vinegar, which I sell on my website, maybe a quarter of lemon squeezed in. So lemon, blood orange vinegar, cashews, and oranges blended together in the blender of Vitamix, made into a creamy dressing. That's an unbelievably delicious dressing. But I have hundreds more of those dressings available to people, from all kinds of dressings made with, tomato paste and sun-dried tomatoes and almonds and chili powder. Fantastic. You can make salads taste great without putting 500 calories of empty calories on top. Americans are eating a huge amount of cheese in their diet, and cheese is full of saturated fat. More, in some cases, twice as much as meat. And they'll have cheese 3 times a day. Butter and cheese at every meal. Then they'll have some dessert, a piece of steak added to that. They'll consume a huge amount of saturated fat. That's literally taking your life in your hands. Fruits and vegetables, beans, nuts, and seeds have no saturated fat. Even low-fat cheeses are not low in fat. They're just lower in fat than high-fat cheeses, and they still, most of that fat is still saturated. So what is the food that contributes to more cancers in the American diet than any other food? What's the food that has more saturated fat? And what food does the EPA, what food does the government tell us, transmits more dioxin, PCBs, and poisonous cancer-causing petrochemicals into your body than any other food in the American diet? What do you think that food is? There it is, butter and cheese, dairy products, the most dangerous food in the American diet. If we were going to scientifically design a diet to create cancer, all we have to do is give people more saturated fat, throw some toxins in there, and then restrict their fruit and vegetable intake. Especially restrict the flavonoids and biochemicals in fruit to protect against cancer. It's almost as if we've been invaded by a foreign planet out to destroy us. They couldn't design an American diet more scientifically perfect to